Peter denied Jesus. Paul persecuted Christians. If you had met either of them before their conversion, you probably would not have guessed that they would become two of the greatest saints in the history of the Church. Yet, every year on June 29th, Catholics throughout the world celebrate the feast of Saints Peter and Paul. And that raises an intriguing question. Why does the Church celebrate these two saints together? The Church celebrates them together because they became two of the great pillars of the early Church. Peter and Paul had different missions, but together they helped establish and spread the Christian faith, and both eventually gave their lives for Christ in Rome. Christians have honored them together since the earliest centuries. Peter's ministry was focused especially on the Jewish people. Paul became known as the apostle to the Gentiles because he carried the gospel to people and nations beyond the Jewish world. Their missions were different, but both were serving the same Lord and proclaiming the same gospel. Let's begin with Peter. Peter was a fisherman from Galilee. He was not highly educated or well known. He was an ordinary man whom Jesus called while he was going about his daily work. If you have read the Gospels, you know that Peter loved Jesus deeply. He was often the first to speak and the first to act. Sometimes that worked well, and sometimes it didn't. He was the one who stepped out of the boat and walked towards Jesus on the water. He was also the one who began to sink when fear took over. He boldly declared that Jesus was the Christ, the Son of the living God. But when Jesus was arrested during the Passion, Peter became afraid. 3 times he denied even knowing Jesus. Imagine what Peter must have felt after that. The disciple who had followed Jesus so closely had failed him at the moment it mattered most. For many people, that would have seemed like the end of the story. But after the resurrection, Jesus met Peter again. 3 times Jesus asked him, "Do you love me?" 3 times Peter answered, "Yes." Then Jesus entrusted him with a mission. Pasche oves meas, feed my sheep. Those words changed Peter's life. Jesus did not reject Peter because of his weakness. Instead, he forgave him, strengthened him, and entrusted him with the care of his people. Catholics believe that Christ gave Peter a unique responsibility among the apostles, and for this reason, Peter is recognized as the first pope. Peter's story reminds us that our failures do not have to define us when we return to God. Paul's story is different. Before becoming an apostle, he was known by his Jewish name, Saul, and he actively persecuted the early Christians. He believed he was doing the right thing. He thought he was defending the truth. Then, while traveling to Damascus, he encountered the risen Christ. That encounter changed the direction of his life. The man who once tried to stop the spread of Christianity became one of the Church's greatest missionaries. Paul traveled across the Roman world, preaching the gospel, establishing Christian communities, and writing letters that became part of sacred scripture. So, dear brothers and sisters, as we celebrate the feast of Saints Peter and Paul today, let their lives remind us to leave room for God to work in our own lives. Peter's failures did not stop God from using him. Paul's past did not prevent God from transforming him. God often works in ways that are unexpected and beyond what we could imagine. If we place our trust in Him and remain open to His will, He can do great things through us as well. Happy Feast of Saints Peter and Paul.